Hello everyone and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons & Dragons and discuss how we might include it in our role-playing campaigns. With me, as ever, is Hamilton from Roleplay Factory and Dragon's Duel. Hello Hamilton, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am also well.
Good.
We are currently, at the time of recording this, we are recording in what is colloquially known as in-betweenmas, where we don't know the day or the time.
No.
We've lost all sense of direction until you get to suddenly it's New Year, and then you're like, oh, it's a new year. Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. Just spending out the things. How's your in-betweenmas been going, Hamilton?
How my in-betweeners been going? It's been okay. As I mentioned to you off camera, I've been reading up on some things that we might be doing in the new year, which is fun, and
Exciting.
which is all D&D related, so I've been enjoying that. And other than that, somehow surviving the weird time
Dilation, yeah.
the time dilation that occurs, the sort of jet lag you get in between. Yeah.
There's always
you?
this build up to like the festive stuff, and it's like you must be festive, and then it's like it's Christmas Day, and then it's like Boxing Day, and then something else. So it does feel like it's always a time suck where so you know, when you have people around and you're like you have to be present, and then you're not present, and then you forget what you've done, and you eat too much cheese, and it's just. Yes. It's a whole thing.
Oh my gosh, how much cheese I feel. I feel like I might turn into cheddar at this point. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. But, well, today is an interesting episode because we've done a couple of these how do we call them, sort of like deep dives into classes before. But Hamilton, what class are we looking at today for DM's Book Club?
We are looking at a player's favourite. It's one of the top. I think it is one of the top, isn't it?
I've no idea.
I think it is.
I think it's your top. One of your top classes.
It's one of my top classes. It is the rogues. The rogues. Hence the title, You Rogue. Oh, you rogue.
Oh, you rogue. Absolutely.
Oh, you cad. Or something like that. It's very much of that ilk.
Imagine calling the class You Cad or Cads. That would be...
Cads. Totally up for that.
I'd rename the class completely. Yeah, so this is interesting because I don't know, I've always been one of those people when I've gone through the classes, I'm always very boring. I'm always like barbarians, fighters, you know, deal damage and stuff like that. And then I've come to rogues and I've gone, oh no, well they're thieves. I'm not a thief. And that is very poor of me to have that very singular, narrow-minded view of what this class is. And so when we were looking at stuff, I was like, oh, well, and you suggested rogue because that is one of your favourite classes to play. I was looking through it, and actually there's so much to do with it. I know I say that every time. It's like it's a brand new information. It's like there's so much here. Of course, there's so much here. But I guess Hamilton, let's start. Why do you like playing a rogue? What is it about the rogue class that you're like, oh, I love playing?
Because they got the best action economy.
Okay. I thought you were going to say role play or versatility.
It's not really. It's maybe not action economy, and probably someone will correct me that's wrong. But it's because they have so much versatility and in combat, and they are ridiculously fun to play. Like as in. I find a lot of the time when I'm playing other classes at lower levels, it's like, so here's your attack, here's your action. Okay, I've done my action. I'm going to move. Bonus action, ain't got any, so I'm just going to sit here. Yeah, my bonus action for my paladin is my smite, but that only occurs if I attack. The bonus action from my warlock doesn't really kick in that much until later on, till you get some more spells. Same with wizards, until you're doing bonus action spells. But rogues, when you hit cunning action at second level, pretty much you just dance around the battlefield like a badass, basically. Like,
can't hit me.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Literally, yeah. I remember I played one of the first times I played them was in White Plume Mountain that we did as like a little one shot, and I remember I had a turn where I was level five, I think. And or maybe 8, I can't remember, but anyway, I had lots of stuff. I was cool, and so I jumped on the back of one of those big giant crayfish, stabbed it in the neck, and then I jumped off because I disengaged, and then ran around the corner, and then was ready the next turn, literally just jump onto another thing, stab it, back out again. Then I had second attack, maybe sometimes sneak. I'll go and instead of disengaging, I'd hide for my bonus action. Then I just shoot some arrows, shoot some daggers at it and get sneak attack, and it was amazing. I was just bouncing around, jumping on the back of things and jumping off them, other than everyone else is just gonna move like this around it because I can't disengage. You know, it's so.
Yeah, it is like you are the Legolas of just dancing around, jumping on things, jumping off things. It's cool slides in and out and stuff like that. Yeah. And it does feel, I guess, like, because it's almost like a spotlight on you as you like, haha, and then you go, and I hide, and then all the other players are like, oh no, it's us now to follow this thing, because rogues, again, they tend to go very fast in initiative, and obviously they do, obviously the most famous thing obviously is sneak attack damage. So obviously you, depending on where you have advantage on the roll, if and you don't have disadvantage on the roll and all that sort of thing, you can get an extra d6, which levels up quite significantly. I think every 2 levels it goes up a d6 until it's 10d6 or 10d6 at level 20.
Yeah.
So you just get your knife and you're like, stab, but then you're like, stab with sneak attack.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, it's because it's just like the hitman, or the sort of you just kind of come in and just and out, and that's it. And when you get to the higher levels, they really do. Depending on which class, we'll talk about different subclasses, the archetypes, but some of them it does become, I think you do start to notice when your wizard is doing ridiculous damage on a regular basis, and you're having to really work then to make sure you're sneak attacking every round or doing particular things to your class. So I think the sort of low level, it's so much fun. When you're in the 1 to 10, you are just super powerful compared to, I think, so much more fun compared to everyone else. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that no one's having fun, but there is a lot more.
You're having fun.
Yes, I'm having fun, and there's a lot of potential for fun whilst
I think,
in combat.
But you're right. I think because with the sneak attack, it's always about like you need to have advantage on the roll. And if you're going first, you need to work out where you're going to be. So I think you're a bit more. Maybe you're more aware of your environment. You're more aware of the tactics, and you're thinking outside the box more compared to, like you said, like your barbarians or your fighters who have to. You obviously get close, or your rangers who have to shoot from afar.
Exactly.
You get to look around and go, okay, there's some ledges here, there's a rock here that I can hide or try and hide behind, I can sneak in, I can do this. So I think being able to do that at a lower level, and that's just how you think, and it's just it's just an interesting way of doing it. Like, it's not for everyone, for sure, but I like the fact that every time you play a rogue, your opening round, you have to think what you're going to do to get that sneak attack, and it ends up with like, how are you going to get the sneak attack damage, unless you're going to do Arcane Trickster, maybe we have some magic and stuff like that. But I just like the fact that how can you maximize your opportunity, because it's all a bit about finding your enemy's weakness. And it's like, well, that's what I quite liked, but in the description it talks about like when it comes to combat, you prioritize cunning over brute strength. So it's like finding that bit where you can just be like, this is my moment, and then you deal that damaging blow. It's just, I can imagine it being really, really satisfying as a result.
It really is. And then it becomes, and the thing is, satisfaction is a good word for it, because there's so much that it gives you in that term. Because things like uncanny dodge, for example, or evasion are just things that you can just feel like a bit of a badass to your DM when they go, all right, so roll your save. Oh, I saved. Oh, okay. Oh, and I use uncanny, and I use evasion. So you take no damage from the fireball that I just threw. Yeah, no, I don't. Oh, fuck. And you feel, and as a rogue, you're just like, yeah. And the DM's like, oh, bugger.
So what else can I throw at you? So, okay, well, how's this for you? Why don't you explain the difference between uncanny dodge and evasion? Because, no, it's true, because it always gets mixed up, I see on stream sometimes, and there's always that 30 seconds where they go, no, I mean this. So what is the difference between those two class features that you can get?
Basically, uncanny dodge is to non-magical attacks, evasion is to magical attacks, whereby if you get attack, you can use reaction to half the damage. If you save, if you that's if you just get attacked by an attack, you can just dodge out the way and take half damage. But evasion is you can then evade a magical attack effect, and then if you save when you save and you take half damage, you just take no damage basically. So you make the DC. So, which as a rogue, if it's dexterity based, you're probably going to save. Do you know what I mean? Like your chances of saving are very high. So your chance of taking no damage from magical attacks is ridiculously high compared to others. And it's not like you don't have... I mean, you're not paladin or barbarian health hit points, but you're definitely not wizard hit points. So it's actually... You can be very... with that, you're maybe not applying high levels of damage all the time, but you're maintaining your life and not taking up like hit points. If we're going to go, I know this is a very combat meta, but I feel that rogues are, as I was saying, like they are very much the most combat heavy for me personally, fun class, and that's why I talk about them very much in a combat way, whilst others I might talk in a more, like warlocks, I would talk more about their roleplay potential.
Well, exactly. Yeah, well, because warlocks have the patron really early on, the first level, right? So that's their thing. Whereas, obviously, again, with all the other classes, you get their archetypes or their subclasses, whatever the term of phrase is now, where that's when you develop them more. So I completely agree with that. I think from what I was reading through with all the different archetypes, so that there are definitely some that are more gained towards the social roleplay combat encounters, compared to things. But from the get-go, there's the vanilla flavour of rogue is this is what you do in combat and stuff like looking at it obviously you've got expertise, so you become a bit of a skill monkey essentially, right? So obviously you can do a lot of stuff that maybe some members of the party can't do. You obviously can use thieves tools to disarm traps and all that sort of thing. Reliable talent, so whenever you make
talent is another OP skill.
It's so OP.
You're just never disappointed. This is my point. You are always because I don't know. This is my point. You are satisfaction is key in being a rogue. You are hardly ever disappointed as a player. You don't make your ability roll. You just roll a 9. You lower. You use it as a 10.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, when you hit level 20, stroke a lot. If you miss, you don't. You hit attack. You literally just can't miss an attack. And if you if you fail an ability check, you roll a 20. So you are never unsatisfied as a player.
You just become winning. God.
Exactly. Well, you just the dice become irrelevant, and actually, it makes so much sense to me. When you are a fighter at level 15 and you do roll a 2 and you somehow do not hit the dragon. It's a bit much, but it's even if you're just consistently rolling when you're in that level 10 level, actually, where you can roll between a 1 and a 10 and not really hit a lot of things, because you might only have a +7, 6 or 7 bonus. There's a lot of things that don't get hit at 17. So half the time, half your rolls, you're not attacking, you're not hitting. It can feel really trudging, and that's 50-50. And if you're unlucky with your dice, you can have a whole combat where you're just like, I miss. I can't do anything with bonus action.
Yeah, and you waste your turn, don't you?
That's your whole turn gone, which is taking you 20 minutes to get there, whilst the wizard casts 15 spells and the cleric does a million things and the rogue badasses it, and it comes round to you and you're just like, I mean, I have that as my paladin in my Curse of Strahd. Sometimes I just go around and I'm just like, I don't do anything. Whilst whenever I played a rogue, I am
There's
never
always
like
something
that.
you can
I'm just
do.
always doing something and always feeling like I'm involved in the game, which is kind of what I think that's an interesting point, because I always think, for whatever reason, I always think, it's really difficult because of sneak attack, and it's not. If you work out and talk to your DM, do I have, because I guess there's that sort of thing, you don't necessarily want to break the fourth wall going, I want to hide so that I get advantage, I think, but maybe that's just the easiest way, just to be really signpost what, because obviously the reason you're doing it is to get sneak attack, because that's otherwise if you don't get sneak attack, then it's just you reduce your damage output per round down to a D6 with your dagger or whatever. But I just want to mention the other I think really interesting class trait you get as just a general rogue is slippery mind. So I love that idea that you acquire greater mental strength, so you gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws, and that's at level 15. That's actually really good, I think, because later on when you're dealing with spells early on, so obviously they're usually strength saves or dexterity saves, which your rogue will do, but actually I think having a save in a mental modifier is actually could be quite interesting, because you get higher powered bosses that are going to have magic and stuff like that to give you that extra save later on. I don't know, I just think that's really interesting, because I don't know of any other classes that do that. No, and I think that's I think you get keen mind, don't you, as a wizard, but that's because they're already very mental focused. But again, that reiterates my point. I don't want to keep going about the same point, but it's that's why they are so good. Again, because wisdom saves are a very high amount of spells use wisdom saves. I don't know the spell list, but I feel like wisdom and dex are your key stats you need to.
I think so.
Sometimes comes in, but wisdom is a high one. So it just gives rogues another chance to just go, I survived! DM, what are you going to chuck at me now?
Yeah.
And if you're an Arcane Trickster, then you can't even chuck, intelligence saves on them. So you're pretty, and charisma, they normally.
Well, you get something called blind sense at level 14, so you can hear, if you're able to hear, you can be aware of a location of any hidden or invisible creatures within 10 feet of you. That's really good, because again, your big bad disappears and you can hear them like sneak off and you're like, well, I know vaguely where they are, and you just work out where they are. I think that's amazing. Again, and that's at level 14, where, again, most things will start to be more invisible or greater invisibility, or you can't see them without certain sight, all that sort of thing. So again, as a class, really interesting, and it's, like you said, very combat focused, but as so versatile that it's not like, I feel like every round is going to be very different to you, or you have to be on it a little bit. So you're like, okay, this is my round, I can do this.
Tactically aware, because going back to sneak attack, like I always find the easiest way that you go hide. The easy one I go is, are my fellow player characters next to someone, because that's it. Just to, I don't know if people don't know this, but it's if you've got another player character within 5 feet of an enemy, you get sneak attack on them as well, because they are sort of semi-distracted with it.
Yeah.
We'll go on to swashbucklers, because swashbucklers are fucking cool, because they take it even further, which is like, if no one's around, you get basically your sneak attack bonus. Sorry, I'll just turn that.
That's okay.
Sorry, but so yeah, I think that the sneak attack can be you have to be very tactically aware of what's going on the table. I think, if not more than others, I don't know why, but it feels like you're very much.
I think you can bounce off your other players very quickly. Like, obviously you go, I say obviously, not necessarily, but because you've got such a big advantage with your dex, because the dex is the core of this class, I think. Like, I know obviously we've said this before, Tasha's, you can change things around so you can do other things, but because obviously so much of this is dex based, you're quick, you're going to get out of the way and all that sort of thing. So it makes sense for this. So you might go quicker in the initiative, so you can make the first strike and then see what your players do and then set up and stuff, so you really are working together as a team. I feel like it'll be interesting to see having a team of, like, we always talk about parties that are just fully bards.
Well, this is something I was going to talk about.
Go on.
So I was part of a one-shot called the Beige Gang, right? Now this came about from a conversation that I had on a Discord server, the Hope Discord server, with a few other people might know out there, like Maka from Check These Out, Maps and Quests, he's kind of a big person on the internet making maps, and Emil from the Double DM podcast, and there's lots of other people, Role Players Guild and all that. So anyway, there's a few of us on there, and we were just taking the piss about the fact that role-playing a rogue is always, I'm an edgelord,
yes.
I'm an orphan, I'm such a thief, I'm so broken,
Little sparrow.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Vax'Uldan, always going, like, my favourite scene from Critical Role is when there's a video of it, I think someone's made an animation of it, where Vax'Uldan goes like, to Pike and goes, we're broken. She goes, yeah, we all are. Like, get over it. Just shut up. Because it's like he's always going on about being like,
I'm so
dark and depressing.
Okay.
I was all kinds of fucked up a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you are all kinds of fucked up all the time, and that's why we're all kinds of fucked up, and that's why we all are together.
I walk by eating chicken and wearing no pants.
And I give him a slap on his bare ass as he walks by.
So we were joking, like, imagine if you had some rogues that were just like the most beige people ever, okay? And so we came up with we took each subclass and made like the most banal variant. So I played a cat burglar who was very rich, inherited a potato chip inheritance from Rhode Island. So we talked like this, and basically he had he didn't steal art, he didn't steal money, because he had all that. He stole randomly shaped and interestingly shaped objects. So like a piece of toast with Jesus on it was like stuff like, really crap things. Yeah, no, but because he was like really esoteric, and he was like collecting stamps as well, as the biggest stamp thief in the world.
I love that.
Okay, and then we had an Arcane Trickster who was basically a children's entertainer. Cool. We had a camp counselor, sort of, Ed Norton from not Moonrise King, what was it? Is it the Wes Anderson film where he's a camp leader.
I don't know. Oh,
Is it Moonrise Kingdom? It might be.
I can't. I'm just thinking Grand Budapest Hotel because he's in that as a unhelpful.
No, but anyway, so like just a sort of basically camp counselor guy who was a scout, and then we had a Karen who was what was she? Oh God, what she was? An assassin. Yes, she was an assassin. So she was like a soccer mom, Karen character who like had oranges and everyone was getting tea and stuff like that, but also was really good at poisoning people. and just to keep her like, so we're just like all these ridiculously beige backgrounds, and we went on this fun watch shot, and it was like and so much fun. But again, the point is playing all these characters in a one shot. We had so much fun just like sneaking about, doing stupid things, like using the Arcane Trickster was like using mind tricks on people. One of them played Mastermind, so they had lots of like abilities to like organize, like to like scope it out. It's good fun. I recommend it.
You know what?
That's Rogue Party is amazing.
I guess because I was going to say because I was like I don't know how that would work, but actually when you're talking about it, it makes so much sense that you just don't take yourself as seriously. You do the Batman, you do that sort of thing, and then you all that sounds awesome as a result. So maybe there needs to be more streams or one-offs where you're all playing the same class but different archetypes.
We keep saying we want to do more of it at some point, and we should. But like the rogue one is the best. I recommend anyone out there just get a party of rogues and see what happens and be different, because the other thing you learn from Dragon's Duel is that when you get any, like, we roll for class at the end, so you gain all your stats and you can get stats wherever you like. Doesn't matter where your stats end up. If you get given any class, there is a class that will be an intelligence focus, or even if you are you aren't wanting to play, you want to play someone with an intelligence focus rogue, you can be an Inquisitive, or even Arcane Trickster, or you could be wisdom based and be more down the Mastermind Inquisitive role, or if you want to be more strength based, you could even make that work. Any skill really works, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's move on then to no, don't be sorry. I think it's really interesting how, like, because again from the description or from the early descriptions are always like, well, they're thieves, they are cut purses, there's all that sort of thing, which relates to obviously the thief archetype. But then actually looking through it, it's like when you're building your rogue, there's a big question at the beginning, certainly in the player's handbook goes, what is your relationship to the law? And I like suddenly, because it gave you this option, like, oh, well, you could have locksmiths, you can have investigators or exterminators. So suddenly I'm thinking like, oh, like The Witcher, like like any sort of detective or anything like that could be a roguish archetype.
Yes.
And I was like, that actually opens it up. So you're not always going to be, like you said. So I do feel like as soon as you're on the wrong side of the law, you're into like, well, I'm dark and I'm an edgelord and no one understands me. And and maybe that's just my way of looking at it. But now you're like, it opens it up to so much, like you said. So so let's look at some of the archetypes. And so I guess out of random, what's the one that you've always you always get drawn to and you're like, this is really good. I mean, I know you've described quite a few of them very briefly, but no. But what's the one you're like, that's my favourite to play, I guess.
Favourite to play, I think it's a toss-up between the Swashbuckler, because that is ridiculously fun. Our Swashbuckler was the captain of their local yacht club, for example. That was who our Swashbuckler was, called Tarquin. He was like ridiculously posh. It was hilarious, like overplayed it. But the Swashbuckler is just like, for roleplay, if you want to just be that, bawdy sort of like Captain Flashheart from Blackadder, just, do you know what I mean? That sort of character.
I was definitely thinking Captain Jack Sparrow is obviously the main one, but I love Flashheart idea. That idea, you're just like, I have arrived.
Yes, exactly. And just like really, and not be roguish about it in the sense of sneaky, but just be very plain. I'm here, I'm very loud.
Look at me.
And I'm going to take you all down with my fancy footwork, because that's one of the things they've got.
I was going to say, describe what fancy footwork is, because I think, again, it is such a cool class feature, and I think people don't. So, just so people know that the Swashbuckler you can find in the Sword Coast Adventurers Guide.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So that's where you can find this one. So what's fancy footwork then?
Yeah, so, well, as they are duelists and pirates, it gives you this ability that when you land a strike and then slip away without reprisal, it means that if you make a melee attack against a creature, that creature can't make opportunity attacks against you for the rest of your turn. Which means, mixed with cunning action, you can go in, attack, disengage without having to use the disengage thing, and go hide.
Yeah.
with your bonus action, which
In,
means
out.
you literally just go and then just float away and
And
disappear
leave.
behind a box and then jump back in. You know, it's so much fun. It's just, I don't know why. If anyone says they're not fun, they're not playing right. That's all.
I agree. Yeah, I get proper. Indigo Montoya vibes and that sort of Princess Bride. Oh, you've not seen Princess Bride? But yeah, you have big.
I need to.
You do, because there's a big dueling fight in that, which is pretty cool as well. And yeah, that idea that you're witty and haha and all that fencing and stuff.
Guybrush Threepwood from
Yes.
It makes me think of like, I'd love to just add the insult sword fighting.
You know it, girls. In a sword fight, a sharp wit is much more important than a sharp blade.
Of course. Everybody knows that, Chrome Dome. Let's get this over with.
Every enemy I've met, I've annihilated.
Oh, yeah? Well, you fight like a cow.
To any, like, I feel like if you're going to be a rogue, when you use the panache feature,
Yes.
which is at level 9, where your charm becomes extraordinarily beguiling, you can make a charisma check contested by a creature's wisdom check. Creature must be able to hear you, and 2 of you must share a language. If you succeed in the check, the creature is hostile to you. It has disadvantage on attack rolls, targets, and against targets other than you. Can't make opportunity attacks against targets.
So it's all
Yeah.
focused on you,
Yeah.
essentially, which I
Yeah.
love. Again, you're like, no, deal with me first.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Like,
But it makes
we've
me
not
think,
done
like,
here.
you fight like a cow, and I can't think of the ones.
I can't remember them, but yeah. So in it's Return to Monkey Island or
Curse
Mystery.
of Monkey Island.
That's the Curse of Monkey Island, and yeah,
no.
you have to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're all Monkey Island based essentially, but
Monkey Island, even it's great.
Yeah,
they have it.
but-
And they're just
I love it because you go round and you meet people and then you fight, and obviously you're crap at the beginning because you don't know any insults, but then you learn from other pirates and then you can eventually beat them because you're like, this is the return insult I can give back to them, and it's
that's it. You fight like a cow, then you must know because you fight like a dairy farmer or something like that. I think that's
some
the comeback.
rubbish like
It's
that,
something
yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun. Look over there, 3-headed monkey. That's the other one you could say if you want to run away. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I
Sorry.
love that.
I
No,
love
don't be
them.
sorry. Don't be sorry. So yeah, so it is that whole sort of archetype of the Swashbuckler. It is fighting with your swords, and there's you get to be like a master duelist at the end. So again, similar to that final thing, if you've missed a roll in combat, you can succeed. So similar, if you miss an attack roll, you can roll again with advantage, and that comes back on a short or long rest. And you're like,
I know.
that's pretty good. Like
It's
if
pretty
you,
good.
Yeah, you always just manage to get that final thing. So everything
But
about
also
it is
using
fun.
your bonus action to gain advantage on the next dexterity or strength check.
Yes. That's quite interesting, I guess. Like again, that's maybe you're predicting what happens in the battlefield, or they're using area effect spells or something like that. The environments for that. Oh, maybe I'll do this just to make sure I'm okay and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's a lot to it.
Like the fact that you now don't have to disengage with your bonus action. You can go in, you can fight, you can then run away, and then like climb up the battlements and then get the higher ground. I don't know. That's kind of what it makes me think of. In a pirate fight.
Whoosh! Oh no! Look, I'm in a new place. So
yes, you are a new place. I think we were just talking about we were just finishing off talking about the Swashbuckler.
Indeed, yes, we were. So yeah, I like that idea, like you were saying. So we got obviously like Captain Jack Sparrow aspects. You've also got, again, like I said, Princess Bride, a great film. If you've ever watched it, I'm going to tell Hamilton to keep watching it because it's such a
I know.
it's a great campaign, isn't it? But the idea, of these duelists and sort of like which I guess again, I don't necessarily, you never see them really at higher levels. You when you're having duels and stuff like that, it's not necessarily a big bad end of the campaign, but how we cool to try, I think, for sure.
I feel if you were doing a 2-player campaign, like a DM and 1-player sort of person, or a DM and 2 players, you could get away with that sort of thing, like because those. I think they're more and more interesting. I always want to do one if I had all the time. I wish I had all this time because it's one of those things. I think it'd be great to take one character and really pull them to and you could have that epic, sort of lightsaber, sort of Darth Vader.
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, like a lightsaber duel, because obviously lightsabers are like swords. Should have known. Anyway, Fun fact.
Fun fact. Literally, Fiona's mind has just been blown. She's realised that lightsabers are like swords.
No, and they're the same amount of danger, because if you do get killed by a sword, you're dead. If you're killed by a lightsaber, you're really dead.
So, you're really dead.
Really dead. Yeah. Anyway, moving on then. I think I'll put.
Who's your favourite? What's your favourite archetype that you've been reading? Because you've not played one, but what one would you be like, this is the one I want to try. If I'm going to be a rogue, what do I want to try first?
Now that's tricky. Looking at them, I would really like to try. I think Phantom would be quite interesting. So Phantom is Tasha's Cauldron of anything.
I knew you were going to choose. I thought you would choose Phantom just because it says Phantom in the name.
It does say Phantom. I like ghosts. I like ghosts.
You like ghosts because you like horror. That's why.
It makes it. You know what? I am but predictable, I think, in this thing. So this is an interesting one because it's sort of talking about rogues walking the line between life and death, and this idea that they can sort of talk with the dead and have all this sort of to do with death and soul trinkets and all that sort of thing. And I quite liked. I think really it was talking about like, you know, how did you discover this grim power? So if you wanted to be something that's like, I think warlock light in a way, like there's some sort of, I know I just said like I don't like having like, oh, I'm evil, but I think there's just something here about you're in tragic circumstances and you're using these powers and stuff. So for this I saw stuff like I was thinking like Sabriel. So there's like by Gareth Nix, which is a lady who controls death through using different bells, and she can control demons and stuff like that. So this idea that you're using death and going into the River of the Styx and trying to find information and stuff, and that's what it talks about. It's talking about getting information from the grave and all that sort of thing, which I was just like thought really interesting, and it pairs it off quite nicely because it talks about certain places like in Eberron and stuff that you can become like a wizard's confidant. So the fact that you could have another backstory with another player that's like, I'm going to play a wizard, so well, how have you thought about these two being together? So slightly magical, but also, you know, a bit almost like, I want to say like a grim tongue in a way. That's sort of like that's sort of just a different thing.
Like a henchman to an evil wizard feels like a perfect Phantom, doesn't it? And if you were going to, I think that could be quite. If you were thinking of an NPC character that you wanted to make like a super henchman person sort of thing, that's like. You want to give them some proper leveling and play them as a known character, you could use this quite well. But exactly. Or as a player, as you said, if you want to play that sort of, could be quite fun, like as a sort of right hand.
Definitely, I quite like that. So the features that sort of come out from Phantom that I really like, there's one called Whales of the Grave, or Whales from the Grave, sorry, where when you hit someone closer to death, you can also channel that harm into somebody else 30 feet away. And so that idea that you can you hit someone with your sneak attack, and you can deal it, round up half your number of sneak attack dice, and then that second creature takes necrotic damage equal to whatever you roll on that. But that's quite good because there's no save against that, or they just have to be within 30 feet, so you could be properly dishing out damage for that, and you can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which you regain on the long rest. And I just thought that's such a cool little slice. Again, another thing where you're just doing more damage and more damage and more damage, and necrotic damage as well.
This inspired my paladin I made called the Oath of the Veiled Shadow, which you can find on DM Guild. Which, surprising that came up in this conversation. No, but I did it that they don't. The only way that they gain, so it was similar, like from the Shadowfell, they use a shadow realm to like inhabit there, to like that's how they gain benefits and stuff. And the one that I made is I changed the. I mean, a bit like Dark Souls in the sense that you get a soul blade, and so you have like this blade which has like little gemstones in it, and when you kill a creature, you fill the gemstone with their soul for your radiant, for your what's it called? Your divine smite. So instead of having a divine, you don't have any divine power, you gain it by having to like battle with enemies, and when you fell an enemy or any enemy that you've attacked that dies within 15 feet of you, but you've attacked it, at least caused blood to it, its soul gets sucked into your blade, and that's and if it's like a fiend, you get necrotic instead of radiant, and if it's a non-fiend, you get radiant damage, so you can have a necrotic. That's pretty cool. Divine smite. So yeah, I thought it was quite fun.
That's quite I love that.
That's why because I saw this and I was like, I love this idea. Copy paste, but not copy paste. But like I played on to that to make it something that was like paladin focused. So I think they're quite fun.
They are quite fun.
These are great.
Well, you've hit on a really good thing. So again, so their second sort of big thing that they have is called tokens of the departed. So when a life ends in your presence, you're able to snatch a token from the departing soul, a sliver of its life essence that takes physical form. So again, a really cool role play thing. So when a creature dies in your presence, and it says creature, not an enemy or a target or anything like that. So it could be your ally. You take. You using you can open your hand as a reaction, and you can roll on the table to get a trinket which represents what the soul was about. So you can either roll for it, or the DM can describe it. And I mean, it might get a bit tedious if you're constantly doing that, perhaps. But I just like that idea that you get something at the end of it, and you can do so many things with it. So you get, whilst a trinket soul is on your person, you can get advantage on death saving throws and constitution saving throws. If you deal sneak attack damage on your turn, you can destroy one of it, and you instantly use that Whale the Grave, so that thing before, so you can do that without expending a slot for that, so that's quite good. And then obviously the cool roleplay was that you can break it for an action and ask the soul a question, and it has to answer, but it doesn't have to answer truthfully, so very much like what's it called now? I've completely forgotten, but the one where you talk to the dead and he can answer you several questions.
Speak to dead.
There you go. Talk to the dead.
Speak with the dead, yeah.
Speak with the dead, speak to the dead. So yeah, so again, some really cool role play things that you could just have. You could just meet an NPC with loads of like necklaces and stuff with different shards.
Yeah, I think what I would do is like with this is like have like a standard trinket for just like, this is what I gain, like little you said like gems on a necklace, or like a like little blades around your on your like skirt or something like that. I could imagine like little like leaves or feathers, but then when it's like a particular one, you might roll when you're like, oh, this is a
like a big bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll for this. I can imagine also that if you ended up in Avernus, say, you might find those very useful financially.
Yeah,
not that this is a good thing. I'm not advocating selling of these things, but you know, it's just. I'm just saying. Free money in a way. It's basically is, isn't it?
Like obviously you can only get a certain number. I think it's like your proficiency bonus, all the way up. So ultimately, I think it's like 5 or 6 that you can have at any one time. But I mean, still bloody useful, still cool to have. Like, and then you have stuff like Ghost Walk, so you can. Which
reminds me of our literally of Ghost Walk.
Ghost Walk. Absolutely, that's what I was thinking as well.
3.5
somebody is going manifest. So yes, this idea that for your bonus action you become spectral, and you have a flight speed of 10 feet. And you can phase in and out of people, and that's something that you can get somewhere. You obviously take damage as well, but you can stay in this form for 10 minutes, which is pretty good if you're trying to sneak in somewhere, perhaps. And or you can use your soul trinket to restart it as well. So again, this is sort of this other currency that you have that you can use for that, which I just think is really good. And then the final thing is, I really love how they title these things. So it's like, Death's Friend. It's like, that's such a nice closer. So you can use that Whales from the Dead on both the first target and the second target to give them necrotic damage, and then at the end of a long rest, a soul trinket just appears in your hand anyway, because the ghosts are drawn to you. And I'm like, I love that.
If you want to be an edgelord, this is you. I'd love to make a beige version of this, to be honest, because you didn't have a beige phantom, but I really want one now, because
that would be amazing. Because you just be like, does anyone want this? I've got
I imagine
so
they
many.
own like a really naff. This is it. They're going to own a really naff like souvenir shop, and that's what their job is. So they're like a really boring, like the exit through the gift shop sort of like place, but all their trinkets are actually souls. But no one knows about it.
But they're like, take it away.
But they're like really naff things like Eladro. Apologies to anyone who has Ladro in their house, but those really crap like like porcelain or something like that, or stuff like that.
Like an antique shop, but it is just like those odd curios, and you're like, no.
Will they turn into beanie babies?
Oh no, that's too horrific. Even for me, that's too horrific.
This is what I want to do to your horror: is ruin it with beanie babies.
I'm sure if I look around this room, I'm sure there's plenty of Beanie Babies somewhere, but you just can't see them. They're always they're always hiding. They're always stealthed, so you never see them. All right, what other archetype do you think that you're like, this is quite cool? I want to play.
I think all of them are really cool. I think the one that I feel could be better is one. If you want to talk about that,
let's go
is
for
the
that.
Inquisitive. one.
Yes.
Because
I do like this one as well, because I was stuck between Phantom and Inquisitive, because I think, again, for role play stuff, Inquisitive is quite a good one. So what is it about, and why would you improve it?
Why would I improve it? I feel like it should. There's the one thing I'm trying to make that I've just not got the time around to, is making a proper detective class for D&D, because I think it needs one. And this is the closest you get, and I just don't think it does enough. That's all, because I think it's I think the ear for deceit and the eye for detail are very good. So you, just so that you can, whenever you can make a wisdom check you can roll a 7 or lower on a d20 as an 8. So basically, you're just better at being able to read truth and insight.
Pick out the lies. Yeah, press X to doubt is always my favourite.
Exactly. Yeah, and making a bonus action to check, decipher and uncover clues. So just being able to do intelligence checks generally, or wisdom checks to generally, so perception and investigation. I think as a bonus action, I don't think that's good enough, because I'm like, when I'm in combat and going, oh, I need to find the secret door, it's normally when you're in a room. So I feel like it needed better than that. And insightful fighting, again, it's what I thought this is my problem, is that they've made a very combat focused class, trying to make it a roleplay heavy. Sorry, I just hit the camera. A combat focused class into a very roleplay focused class, and it doesn't work. That's the problem, because they're trying to think, let's make it about bonus actions and about in insightful fighting, which gives you like a advantage basically by you can check to see where you can hit better, basically. Steady eye. You have advantage if you move half your speed.
Investigation and perception checks if you all that sort of thing.
You can again, you can see more things. You get better blind sense, and you figure out weaknesses of people. I just think it was very much. I don't know. It was close to being a detective, but really, it's more like a really good. It felt very close to assassin. It's just like, I'm very good at being able to determine how to kill people. And so it's good because it opens up the need for a detective class, which I think there is room for. But that's all. That's the thing.
I agree. I guess because obviously rogues, because they're designed in such a way, as we just sort of spoke about having this combat. They are going to hit. If they're going to hit very hard. But then obviously you say, all this stuff does feel a bit to me like it's out of combat. Like, how often in combat do you find a secret door or the lever that reverses the lava or anything like that? And I don't know, I definitely have had in previous D&D sessions, there's definitely been there's been a timer, there's been a big crystal, and I've gone, let's break the crystal, because it seems to be pulsating quite quickly. But that's just me as a player, and as a barbarian, that's what I normally play, the damage on it can outdo it. Whereas this is like, I feel like any player that's you don't have to be like, I want to roll. Can I see that is you? Because I always think
give it as a bonus action. If someone says I want to make an investigation check in the middle of combat, I'd be like, take it as a bonus action. Yeah,
exactly. Or if you or at disadvantage if you're busy doing something else. Exactly. I completely agree. Like, it's just one of those things where maybe it's just as a player, you're like, well, my character wouldn't see this because I play it like this. I always think that when you're playing D&D, you are playing yourself underneath it all, so you will have a little bit going, well, why is that pulsating? Like, any person will be like, well, let's go check that out. I don't need to
pulsating crystal in a room. That's the kind of thing. So
I guess because obviously, everyone always, I think that's the thing. I think we've maybe talked about this before. This idea that perception checks are always the most common. Can I see this? Can I see that? And all that sort of thing. Yeah. And I guess it's tricky because we're not using all the time. We're not using minis and maps and all that sort of thing. We're using theatre of the mind. So sometimes it is, but like, can I see where the monster's weak point is? It just gets to that point where you're like, I don't know, like, it's either you give it or like there's no point in rolling for everything. Investigation's different because obviously you can be like, you uncover the cellar door or all that sort of thing. So I always find perception checks really tricky because it's one of the most used ones, but it's also, do you use it in combat? Not really. It's just a way to advance the story, which I think as DMs, like, if they're not getting it, there should always be a plan B where you're like, oh look, your NPC friend has found from shuffling because it's taking you a bit longer, so the treasure's been taken away already, or something like that, rather than just constantly rolling for no purpose, if you see what I mean. So I completely agree. I love the idea of an investigator. Like, I'm thinking maybe is he called Harry Dresden from the Dresden Files or anything like that?
Okay,
Like
I've never watched it, but I've heard the term. But
Sherlock
Holmes is kind of like
Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I guess because if you think about it, Sherlock Holmes doesn't necessarily do lots of fighting. He just does lots of thinking about things, and then you eventually get there and go, "My God, Holmes, you've got it right," and that's the end of the adventure. It's not. Rarely does he fight. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, it's tricky. I don't know if I would put Sherlock Holmes as a rogue per se.
Well, no, I mean he's roguish, but he's not
Roguish.
a rogue.
I'd maybe put him as a duelist, perhaps. So like put him back as a swashbuckler, and just have everything dumped into proficiencies and stuff, because you already get proficiencies and expertise in classic things, so you don't necessarily need more of it.
I don't know. I've tried to make it in the past. I've done it so that I've just given them as basic, like straight off you get advantage on intelligence and wisdom saving throws, checks based on your area of study that you've taken, you understand. So in a detective, like an urban environment, you pretty much know the street, the network of the roads everywhere, and you can get benefits on, like, if you're chasing someone, I've made it so you can like predict where they're going to move, basically, so you can sort of organize cutoff points. But it's that's kind of how I played it. But when I've tried to build it, and sort of things like I feel like things that do work with them is sort of like that hide in plain sight, sort of rangery. It needs a bit of ranger mixed in, and a bit of, I feel like rogues and rangers just need to like get chucked into a mixer generally. And I've done a few things. Thought about making things. I feel like you could gain a lot. Like, I think, when we do talk, have you talked about rangers on here before?
No, not yet. So we'll have to do that again.
Yeah, but basically, rangers just need cunning action added in, and a couple of other things from other things, and they'd be sorted. Because, like,
they'll be done.
They'll be done. But you think, we were talking about Legolas. Like, Legolas to me is a ranger. But
absolutely, yeah. But I can definitely see him. I can definitely see him doing both. Yeah,
you play him as a rogue if you wanted to be Legolas. So if I wanted to make a Legolas character, I'd probably just take a rogue and give them a bow.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give him a ranger.
Because that sneak attack you can get on ranged attacks as well. Yeah, so
exactly,
makes sense.
So like, it doesn't. I don't know. It just kind of. We'll talk about rangers. We'll talk about rangers when we come to rangers.
We'll talk about rangers. But yes, I agree. I think Inquisitive as well. Like, I guess the name of it as well. Whereas all the rest are like, Arcane Trickster thing. It's like Inquisitive. It's like investigator.
Yes, exactly.
Inquisitor or anything like that. So no. I don't know. Interesting on that front. So
yeah.
So I want to talk about, I think the other archetype I wanted to talk about was the assassin.
Oh, yeah.
Purely because this, like, reading through it brought me back to my favourite video game of all time, which is Hitman. And I love Hitman. I think if you ever want to get like a proper roguish sort of thing, play the latest Hitmans that you get, because obviously you got beautiful levels and all that sort of thing. But the way you can, you do, because if you've ever played any Hitman, the fact is that the mission is always the same. You kill a target. Usually it's maybe multiple targets, or it has to be in a certain time limit. And what's great about Hitman is that and that's why I love it so much, is that you can replay it so many times. And I've just wandered around the levels picking up various things and gone, oh, maybe I'll kill it. It's like, oh shit, I killed someone. Oh no, run away. Fuck. As most of Hitman playthroughs you ever see is people like hiding and running away.
Exactly, yeah.
And I that's the thing that makes me love. So that's why when I saw this class, I was like, this could be quite fun, because you could play the very serious, like, Assassin's Creed, Tobias Reaper sort of thing. But I want it to be clumsy. I want you to say, oh no, I used the rubber duck instead of the throwing
Tommy
knife.
Cooper of
Thank you. Good evening. Ever got time for more?
Oh, could you imagine? That would be amazing. So I thought I would talk about Assassins, and I think because most people, I don't know. Again, this is where I should have done some research before, but I don't know what the most popular type of rogue is. I would assume it is a damage dealer. Like, I always think it's thief, because maybe that's just the thing of it. But I think assassin probably is quite. Assassin and arcane trickster, I think, are quite big, so people might want to do a little bit of magic and stuff.
I'm going to find out.
Have a look. So I'll say, you get at level 3, you get something called Assassinate. I mean, makes sense if you're assassin. You get Assassinate. Oh, go on.
Roguish Archetypes rankings. This is ranked by just one person.
It's a fact. But yeah, so assassinate, you get advantage on any attack rolls on a creature against a teacher that hasn't taken a turn in combat yet. So again, that quick initiative you get, and you just stab, and then any hit you score on a creature that is surprised is a critical hit. So again, the idea that you're just walking up behind someone and you a lot of talking, you know how all these boss fights always start with talking, you just go, right, just get in position and go.
Yes.
It's done.
I think they do have lots of other fun things. I think when you were saying I think Thief and Assassin must be. I was just thinking about going back to the most. I think it must be Thief and Assassin, probably.
I think because they're both, aren't they both available in?
They're the most available ones. Yeah, that's it.
In Player's Handbook. So there's Arcane Trickster, Assassin, and Thief. I think it's basic rules, but yes. So those three are obviously been the oldest, I guess. So I can imagine it's one of those three. Yeah.
But what? So what do you think of their like infiltration stuff, like the imposter one and the? I think they're quite fun actually.
Yeah,
I think
so
they're more fun than the Thief one.
So this is the thing. I think is it? Yes, this one talks about like, okay, so you're putting yourself in this sort of character, and again, I can imagine using this sort of thing that you set. I don't know how often you do this in a game. I just think it's quite nice flavor stuff and maybe good roleplay stuff. So okay, you create a false identity for yourself, but you must spend 7 days and 25 gold pieces to establish a history, profession, and affiliations for identity, but which can't be a real person. It has to be fictional. But again, very Hitman. You just turn up in a suit and you're like, hello, I'm Tobias Reaper. You've got a hotel room for me. You're like, oh yes, of course, because you're wearing a suit. So I think that's quite cool. And then the imposter one, so you gain the ability to sort of mimic speech, writing, and behaviour, but you must spend at least 3 hours studying these 3 components of the behaviour. So again, following around people and stuff like that. Your ruse is indiscernible to the casual observer, but a wary creature may suspect something. So they have to do it, but you gain advantage on any deception checks. So again, it's all, I guess, this is the thing. I just think that you need to. No, I was just going to say, I think it's one of those things where this would have to be a very particular type of campaign, because I can imagine you have this cool idea, I'm going to be a hitman, but I'm going to do this, and then you're like, yeah, well, we're going into a dungeon though, so this, you don't need a disguise for anything, you don't need to mimic anything, so it's a bit pointless. It'd be great
in like the Waterdeep.
I was going to say Dragon House, right? Yeah, absolutely. Infiltrate balls, you can pretend to be other people. Yeah, works well for this.
Interestingly, going to all rogues, the high rollers Waterdeep Dragon Heist, they all had to take a level in Rogue,
didn't they?
Yeah, I think so, because it felt very. They called it a Rogue's Gambit, didn't they? Actually, that was the title for it. But I think this is perfect for it, because I think when we were doing Dragon Heist, there was lots of time where we had like weeks to go by, time to downtime happening and stuff like that. So we didn't actually have any rogues. We didn't actually in our party, but we had a ranger, and I feel like we should have swapped the ranger to a rogue. It would make so much more sense. But because they went to a parties into it, and they went to galas and stuff, and they needed to infiltrate, and so this would have been perfect for it. Like, you know, and you'd obviously say you spend the next week, you know, creating this false identity sort of thing.
I guess. Yeah, it's the way you play it. I guess, I can imagine it being for heist stuff, for urban settings. Again, that idea that maybe you have a guild and you're like, okay, it's a thieves guild, or it's a I don't know, a Mission Impossible kind of guild. Yeah. Like, okay, your mission, should you choose to accept it as these things, and then work on that perhaps. But yeah, because it does feel very role play esque, and like and you have to have meet certain requirements, because there's another, I can't remember which class it is, unfortunately. There's one which does the same thing as imposter, but you can mimic someone's speech for a minute after just like looking at them or something like that, and it's like, compared that to 3 hours of work. So you can imagine like an upstart like rogue going, oh, I'm going to mimic that speech. He goes, oh, well, I think you need to take your time. Oh no, you can just do it. Okay, well, that's pointless for me. But I think I again, it's campaign dependent for sure. But I do like that as a thing. And then Death Strike, you become the master of instant death. Yeah. It's just a great line. So yeah, you must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, you double the damage of an attack against the creature if you attack and it's surprised.
At level 17, assassinate plus Death Strike on with sneak attack.
Sneak attack. It's gone. Yeah,
pretty much most things could get done. I mean, like, you're not going to kill, CR20 characters, but you can pretty much take out anything.
It's gonna be an amazing opening move if you're able to be that quick as well.
Yes.
So everything about it, I'm just like, that's
Well, you just
cool.
think if you were an assassinate, you would literally have everyone but your party turn up in the dragon's lair, make a big noise, you sneaky, and just before anyone takes an attack, you go, take it out, and see what you can do, and take like 100 damage off it or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it's like you can imagine like a rogue, a barbarian, any of those things which just have those big opening moves and just like it takes half the damage, which is helpful before the dragon goes. Or I mean, the dragons will any big bad will probably have really high initiative as well. But if you're able to get there quick, you're like, oh, quick, surprise, motherfucker! Just like.
Exactly. And then disengage, jump around, and hide again, and that's fine.
Ooh, can't touch me. Exactly. Any of the others that you want to talk about?
I think we've covered the classics. I think Thief is the real classic, and I think it's basically they're very good at jumping and climbing
and
things, sneaking and stealing things. Basically,
I will say the one feature from
device.
Yeah. So I want to talk about this because I think out of the Thief's
school thing,
it's such an old school thing. I actually do like it. I think it's quite funny, like the idea that you could get your hand on something. So level 13, you've learned enough about the workings of magic that you can improvise the use of items even if they're not intended for you. So you could take any magical item that isn't required by a class and use it. I just like the idea, like again, thieves, I'm thinking of Catwoman, I'm thinking of like any sort of cat burglar type thing in that, and I'm just like, oh, I got it, it's pretty. Oh, it could also do this. Like, yes, dead. Like,
well, it makes sense, like, because you need, like, you can't have grappling. You can have grappling because you learn that you talk about Catwoman, Batman. The sort of you want the tools of the trade, which in a D&D world are going to be magic. So you want. I think it makes sense. I just think it's so funny because that used to be a thing in old school D&D, which was you had to have a use magic device roll was a thing. So that's why it's.
But I think out of all, because everything else is just like you become adept at doing this and this, but also you can use an item that is not for you, which I thought was pretty fun as a result.
They are really good fun. They are good, and the Supreme Sneak's always great. You just stealth about all the time.
Stealth about, yeah, absolutely. There was and this is where I can't remember which one it is now, but I think it's Scout as well, which talks about like. This idea of getting treasures and stuff like that, or exploring and stuff like that. And instantly I was thinking like, oh, we actually stuff like Lara Croft or Nathan Drake and all that sort of thing, where you're again not a fighter per se, but you're going to find treasures and stuff like that. So again, just another twist on that idea that you're a thief sort of, or doing some things. I can't remember which one it is that sort of mentioned treasure hunting now, but I was like, well, that'd be quite an interesting one where again it makes sense that you are going on an expedition into a dungeon. That's not necessarily you're taking from rich people in town, but you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do this as well. So I thought it was a cool idea to just play it differently than the typical. I'm just gonna disarm this trap, and I'm gonna take this. Thanks.
No, it was good. I think the other thing with the Scout as well is it's kind of like it's a good rogue, rangery again sort of archetype. So you can sort of feel like if you want to have that. You want to feel like you're more of a nature-based rogue. This is a good one for that. And the ambush master's quite fun as well, which is another similar sort of like advantage on initiative rolls. And then first creature hit during the first round of combat becomes easier for you and others to strike. So you get attack rolls that have advantage at the start of your next turn. So everyone gains benefit. So it's more of a again like a party-focused group. A group, because rogues again are very not very much about doing their own thing and using the party for their own benefit, whilst this is actually one which does stuff.
And just to circle back, because I completely forgot, there was one thing about the thief I did want to talk about, was that final thing they get, which is thieves' reflexes, that you become adept at laying ambushes and quickly escaping danger. You can take 2 turns in the first round of any combat. So you take the first turn whenever you roll it, and then 1 at initiative 10. I'm like, that's really irritating because you're doing all this damage. You're like, okay, me again. Yeah,
exactly. No, it is.
It's very cool. I do think it's very cool, and I wonder then as a result maybe that's why people wanted it so much. I mean, you get that level 17, so it's not particularly early on, but again, like we were saying before, if you're able to sneak in and do that big attack to damage to the dragon, the first one, and then you're able to hide or to get out the way, and then you're like, okay, do it again on initiative 10, where I can.
You could imagine that sort of
again.
like they kind of like they run in, go, and then they hide behind by a neighbouring party member, and then they sneak round again and like that. Exactly.
It looks very cool as a result.
Exactly, as all rogues I want to do.
All rogues are just very cool, just slightly, like you said, gothic, a lone wolf.
Yes.
Kind of thing, yeah. And I guess it would be remiss of us not to talk about the Arcane Trickster, if briefly.
Oh, yeah, we haven't even talked. I can't believe we haven't actually talked about that.
I think it is a great one. I think the one, it's always the one that I'm like, oh, it's the one with Mage Hand. And obviously, there's more to it than that, but this idea that obviously it has Mage Hand to use certain things, so it can use Mage Hand to pilfer items from things easily, or to put stuff onto people, which I always think that's a cool way of, like, if you're trying to get, like, past, like, say, a security point, and you're like, oh, I have some illegal goods or something like that, I'll just put it in the person in front of me, and they might not get checked, but they might do, and you're like, oh, well, whoops, like, I didn't get checked. But you can also turn that invisible, which I didn't realise I assumed you could do that with all Mage Hand. Turns out you can't, so you don't have this magic wavy hand anyway, it's all invisible, so that's quite cool. Obviously you get cantrips, which are all from the wizard spell list. Again, I didn't know this myself, but like you can use it to, they're all, what did it say? It talks about it, it's all enchantment or illusion spells for the first couple of levels, and then you can choose which ones, and I think that's quite important actually, because obviously it buys into that whole thing that they're sneaking and it's like deceiving people and they're illusionary and stuff. So yeah, everything about it I thought was quite cool. And what was it I was going to say?
The Spell Thief is a good one as well. I quite like that.
That was
real,
it.
That's the 17th level one, which is, even if it's not a wizard spell, any spell that's within, because they only get up to 4th level spells, if they see someone cast it, they can use a reaction to basically, if they fail to save on your DC, you negate the spell's effect again, and you steal their knowledge of the spell for 8 hours. Yeah.
And then they can't cast it. So it's like, I just like that. You just almost like just slip it out of them, and you're like, cool, this is mine now that I can cast for 8 hours. And like you said, it only goes up to level 4, but still, that's such a cool thing.
But how useful, like, I know, you can't, there's not many.
You can't cast
spells.
Fireball, you can't cast like Dimension Door, or anything that could get away, like, oh no, you can't have that. No, you can't have that.
But
so
now I can use it, which is
I can use it. No,
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool, and again, I kind of wish that was at a lower level. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense per se, because obviously it's not like you get higher magic level, etc. But I just thought, because it's such a cool idea.
Having a negate spell, like a counter. I mean, they do have. I mean, they can use counter spell because they're wizards.
Counter
spell's a wizard thing, isn't it? I think they must be able to. Yeah. But having an additional sort of counter spell that's innate would be quite cool. Like on top of evasion, it feels very roguish to like in that sort of evasion, uncanny dodge, to sort of as a party benefit as well, as more party benefit one being like, oh, I'm gonna suck the energy out of that spell. That's that done.
Yeah, I also like, that was it. The one I was going to say was you can use your Mage Hand to distract targets, so you could just put it within 5 feet of them and be like, hello, can't see you. And then you get advantage on the rolls against that creature to the end of the turn, so it's like, fuck off, and you're like, no, it's a hand. Ooh, and now you hit slap slap.
Doing like butterfly.
Ooh, butterfly.
I can do a dog. Ruff, ruff.
Ooh, like flicking the head.
Flicking.
Ooh,
oh, that's so annoying.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
Stop hitting yourself. Okay, I love that now. I'm doing that.
Doing that now. Yeah. What else? There's Soulknife as well. So that's a more recent one.
New, isn't it?
That's new. So that's from Tasha's as well.
Yeah.
And I liken this to almost like a Jean Grey, a Dr. X, that sort of thing, where you're using the power of the mind and soul blades and all that sort of thing. So you can create soul blade weapons to throw at people. You can use them to throw them a distance and then teleport to where that knife is, and then you can just go straight into the mind towards the end of it. And again, it's very, very edgelordy. I do see this as sort of a companion piece to Phantom in a way, because again, that sort of epic stuff that.
That's
there's
pretty
a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, it is. What? It is a very cool.
Psychic elevation. I want that, because that's like Dishonored.
Yeah.
Blink.
Blinking it. Yeah, that sort of. So they have something called psychic energy. So a bit like key points or anything like that. You have like a separate pool of stuff, and you can use them to expend them to do certain things. So there's stuff like having a side bolster knack. So if you fail at doing an ability check using something that you've got proficiency in, you can use it to roll a d6, add that to the roll. So very similar to bardic inspiration, all that sort of thing. Psychic whispers, which I think is really good actually. So you can establish telepathic communication between yourselves and your party essentially. So you roll one of your dice, and that number is how many hours you can have this telepathic communication for, and you don't need any components or anything like that. So you can just be able to talk to each other. So when you're splitting up or something like that, as long as you're within 1 mile, you can do it. So you don't have to waste spell slots. You don't have to have
it's really good.
bloody stones. Be like, hello, hello, where are you?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool thing. And yeah, the blades and the soul blades and that sort of thing. You can make yourself invisible. Psychic veil for up to an hour. Again, that's just using a die rather than a magic slot and all that sort of thing. And yeah, just everything about it. I just like this. There's really cool things you can do with it. Very, like I said, very X-Men, very mutanty. Sorry. Which I just thought, if you wanted to do something a little bit different, that could be like a very Psychonauts was the other thing I was thinking of. So when you're going into people's. Yeah, it's great. It's a great game. Yeah, it's always on the list. But
There's so much on the list. That's the problem.
We'll never get it done. But yeah, so I guess if you wanted to do something that was a bit more edgelordy, but it's like you're using psychic blades, and that was it. I was thinking of Gambit. So the idea
Gambit. Yes.
That was the X-Men I couldn't think of. I was like, what was it? What do they do with the cards? Yeah, Gambits. That idea you throwing these knives at people that just disappear. So you can have that kind of cool ass character, because Gambit is the coolest X-Men. Let's face it.
Sorry, I was getting mixed up. Gambit is who's the devil in sort of person who.
Oh, you're thinking of Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler. That's who I was thinking of, because it's that sort of like.
Nightcrawler's also cool. Yeah.
Definitely the coolest.
Yeah, I don't know. Combine the two. How's that?
Okay, yeah. If you put the two together, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Night Gambit.
There
we go.
That's like I like that. That could definitely be one of your rogues that you can put in and nobody knows who that is. You're like, I'm not here.
Cards.
Cards. And yeah, I think finally, because we did mention it briefly, the Mastermind.
Oh, yeah.
So this one, I do think, again, I see this as less so much like James Bond or anything like that, but I've seen this as I can't remember his actual name in Game of Thrones, but the spider, essentially this idea you're a master of secrets, and you have little ways of getting it. So this idea of like, I think this is the one, you can, at level 3 you can mimic the speech patterns and accents of a creature you can hear speak for at least 1 minute. So if you compare to that other one, with the imposter feature, you're like, oh, rubbish. Also, Master of Tactics, you can use the help action as a bonus action. I didn't realise that the help action was an actual action. I just assumed that if you're helping someone, I don't know, it makes sense completely, but I think maybe now it's like, I don't know, you can still do other things on your turn, but I didn't realise that the help action was like a full thing.
Which gives an advantage though, which is great. So like it gives, as a bonus action, you're giving advantage. Again, it's a party focus, which is kind of good for more of that.
Yeah, and it's within 30 feet, so you don't have to be next to your ally for that. You could just be 30 feet away going, you got this, I'm helping. Distract. This was it, though. Insightful Manipulator. So at level 9, you can spend 1 minute observing or interacting with another creature outside of combat to learn certain information about the capabilities compared to your own. So I love the fact that you're comparing yourself and guessing it, and then your DM tells you if the creature... Yeah, it's like, what do you think on this? But your DM tells you if the creature is your equal, superior, or inferior in regards to 2 of the following characteristics of your choice. So it could be one of the mental scores, so intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Class levels, if any. I don't know how often I guess because maybe in the olden days we used to build enemies and stuff like that as actual player characters, so maybe that would be what it is. But then at the DM's option, you may also realise a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits, if anything. And I thought that's more interesting, because then you could be like, what does this person want? What motivates them? Or what's their weakness? And they're like, it's gold, it's being, it's power, or anything like that. And then you're like, okay, when you go into like a bargaining situation with them, you could be like, oh, I could get you what you want, and then really put those pressure on that in terms of roleplay, which maybe gives you advantage in that, rather than I don't know, because I feel like the scores, like, because that feels funny, like a combat thing. It's like, oh, they're super intelligent. Maybe they're a wizard. Maybe they can do spells, or
it gives you more sort of understanding of more than actually what you're.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know, because otherwise, like, their intelligence score is like, if you get +2, what does that mean? I don't know, but you get that at level 9, so I don't know. Maybe I would rework that a little bit so that it would be a piece of history, or remember something about them.
It's very combat heavy again, isn't it? It's very focused on the combat rather than you feel like you. Yeah, as it does say, at the DM's option, you might also realise, a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits it hasn't, as you said. So I think that you probably would play that more, wouldn't you? You'd be like, just give me some legend lore. Basically, play legend lore on this person.
Why not? Yeah, because then because anything like that. Because could you imagine if you did that to like the butcher? You're like, what's their gain? And like, they just live. They have a family of 7. They're feeding. They're low money, all that sort of thing. You're like, oh, I now feel guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I thought they were the assassin.
but I'm superior to them in every way.
Yes. Oh dear, that'd be awful. But, and the misdirection's quite fun. I like misdirection. I think again, you could be really sneaky and like your barbarians within 5 feet of you. You might be like, yeah, you take the damage.
or if they've got a higher AC, for example, if you've got a paladin and you're like, oh, hit the paladin. That doesn't.
Who
like that.
wants to be hit anyway because they want to sacrifice themselves. Hit me! Exactly. It's like
exactly. So for this, sometimes you cause another creature to suffer an attack that was meant for you. So if you're targeted by attack where another creature, so it could be like an enemy or an ally or an NPC, is within, you can grant you cover of it, and you can use your reaction to have that attack target the creature said. So you will get cover anyway. But I like that idea that you just like hit the cow instead, please.
But if they've got minions as well, I guess that's the thing. It's like if someone's trying to use, it's a very good like anti-pack tactics sort of thing, because you could if there's they're sort of like dire wolves or something like that, and you're fighting against, they hit the other dire wolf or something like that, which could be
I quite like that misdirection one. And then finally, Soul of Deceit. Your thoughts can't be read by by any means, unless you allow it.
We found the word.
It's that word. But you present false thoughts by succeeding on a charisma deception check, and this is the most important thing, I think. I always find this really interesting. So, additionally, no matter what you say, magic that would determine if you're telling the truth indicates you're being truthful if you so choose. So you could be lying and be able to manipulate the music. I know, and you can't be compelled to tell the truth by any magic. And paladins love zone of truth. They're like, tell us the truth, and you're just like, can't do it. And I just love that.
You just say, yeah, I'm telling you the truth. I've not done anything wrong.
I've not done anything wrong, officer. Again, at level 17, it's a big role play thing, and I love it. I think it's a great one. But I wish it was a bit earlier, because Zone of Truth keeps being used earlier levels. I think
really
that you said that's sweet, because people are like, we must know the truth.
Yes, because they never trust the DM, so they just go Zone of Truth. Everyone, exactly.
Zone of Truth. So yeah, I'd had this one a lot earlier, but I don't know. Again, it's not a combat one. It's a social encounter one, which it also sounds to me like, why are people trying to find out what you do? So maybe you build yourself up to be like this master manipulator, like you're head of the thieves guild, and people are constantly trying to infiltrate you. So maybe it's a paranoid thing, but I don't know. It definitely feels some of these archetypes maybe. Yeah, again, like I was saying, like maybe if you're building your big bads and you're actually building them as player characters first, maybe you're just like, oh, this makes sense for a big bad, and if the player character's like, well, we're trying to find where this big bad is, you must tell us the truth, and you're like, oh, well, according to the character. So I always think these are DM characters rather than player characters.
I think it's also when you have to be in these, a lot of those ones, I find you need to be in these really big arching campaigns where they become like you've got yourself to that level anyway, because I don't know, again, this is not 100% true, but I think a lot more political things come into higher level campaigns, and that's why it might be more useful then. But I feel people are getting involved in that much earlier. Like, I mean, if you look at Critical Role, for example, they get directly into sort of political stuff in their early between level 1 to 3 to 10, let's say, they're already in these sort of worlds. So it feels like level 9 would have been good, or 13 maybe would have been fine for it. Rather, it doesn't feel actually OP enough. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm level 17, what do I get? I can get away with lying. I've already got a really good charisma score, so
yeah. So I think overall, looking at all these archetypes, so there's 9 of them to have a look and stuff. I think some of them you're like, oh, these are really good for combat, and some of these are like, oh, these give me ideas for roleplay. But I do feel the roleplay ones, like, there's, I don't know, like, because again, like, going back to it, we've said the vanilla, the sort of standard rogue, you get so much of it, and then these ones, I don't know, it doesn't seem to add up to it. I mean, I'm sure there's the same for other classes as well, but looking at it, there is such a stark difference between, like you said, the Inquisitive and the Assassin and all these sort of things. And it's one of those things where, again, maybe it's just the way they were written, and then we're looking at them, like, earlier on, maybe there was like, oh, you could do all these things, but they're not as important to the game, whereas now it's like, well, roleplay is more important than combat, or vice versa, or there's more choice, perhaps. So I don't know, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think what I've learned is that there is no one type of rogue, as I assumed, and actually all of them are really interesting, and it just, again, depends on the game. Again, talking to your DM about it and going, I want to play this kind of rogue, does this fit with what you've got planned? Oh, bless you. Sorry, hang on. I've stolen that sneeze now. That's mine. I'll keep that. You cannot sneeze for 8 hours, but I can. There you go. But yeah, I feel like as long as you check with your DM, like, does this work? Because otherwise, you might have a really bored player halfway through going, I can't do anything because it's.
Sorry.
Bless you. I said you couldn't sneeze.
Sorry. you failed on your DC.
I did, damn it. But yeah, you don't want. No, it's all right. But yeah, you don't want bored players.
No.
Sat there, and like you said, like, you get around to your turn, you go, oh, there's not much I can do in this, and that happens from time to time when you think that rogues. When you look at it at the beginning, you can do pretty much anything environment, but if they're not enjoying the whole session, it might be a bit tricky. Certainly, like I said, I do think the Inquisitive is the weakest out of all of them, and that's such a shame because, like you said, I think you could do so much with having detectives and locked room puzzles and stuff, but if it ends in a big combat, which would make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like, what else can the rogue do? It's like, well, I've figured it out, but we're not going to fight about it, even though I could kill you with one punch.
I think that's it, and I think what Rogue says to me is, like, it has great role-playing potential. We all know you could do the edgelord. I think you could do silly things with it, and you could do great fun things with it, and more than just edgelord. But I think their focus, and as I said at the beginning, is that it's a very great. If you're going to want to enjoy combat, choose Rogue, because if you think you're going to play a combat-heavy campaign, or even if you find combat a drudge generally, and you're finding combat in D&D not fun for whatever reason, try out a rogue as a good option to sort of, like, fall in love with combat again and feel and you can, because you can roleplay however you like. You can make any character be whoever you want to be and do whatever you want to do, because I don't even think that, you know, your class necessarily overly determines the roleplay you're going to undertake anyway much, because you can put your stats where you like, as you said, and you can gain your proficiencies where you like, but I think if you feel like I want to enjoy combat because I don't enjoy it, then I'd say choose a rogue, because you will always.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. Wow. Well, thank you, Hamilton, for such a great and interesting topic. Like, I've gained so much more out of it. I get a new appreciation for them, and because maybe I did see them, like I said, as the thief, but as the I do all the damage and then I leave, and you're like, oh, bloody hell! But actually, there's so much you can do with them. Yeah. So, Hamilton, what's happening on Roleplay Factory? What's happening with Dragon's Jaw? What's going on?
I don't even know where we are now. I don't know where we are. I think we're in the middle of June. We're in January somewhere. We're in the middle of June. We're in the middle of January. Let's just say we're in the middle of January. We will be, I think, by now. I think maybe this is the first episode of Dragon's Jaw Season 3 will be on Saturday night. That's what's going to be happening. So our character backstories and our session 0s last week. This Saturday is going to be session 1, so that's going to be fun. You will see what we're going to do with these characters, what the story is, like what happened. Like, this is going to be the opening of a campaign, basically. So it's going to be exciting. I don't know because I haven't recorded it.
It will be exciting. No, you haven't recorded it, but it's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Can't wait.
So that's going to be a bit of it's going to be a rush through. It's like a very intro to the story, so it's going to be a bit of a run through. There might be more than one DM.
What?
There might be the DM Dick Dynamite from Backwater Bastards on the show, as well as another DM. But why? Why is there another DM? I don't know.
What's going on?
What's going on? But yes,
That's very, very exciting.
there might be Beholder Disco.
Well, I'm there. What's the dress code?
There might be. I don't know if there will be, but there might be.
Oh, you've made promises now.
I have made promises. Hopefully I can keep. No, yeah. So yeah. Anyway,
Exciting.
that's all I can say. What about you? What's going on with where? What's going on with all the
What's
other
going
stuff
on
you
with
do?
What's going on with me? Well, good question. I'm also in the same place going, what is going out just now? So yes, what's going on? So my name's Fiona. That's number one. Number two.
Have we clocked that yet?
Whoa. I also run What Am I Rolling, which is a twice-monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it's going very, very well. I have lots of content. I just have to edit it at some point in the in-betweenness. I'm sure I'll get there. Yeah. I've been playing some solo RPGs. I was talking to you about it. I've been playing something called Long Haul 1983, which is a solo RPG game of me going on a long journey in presumably a huge semi-truck, and let me tell you, it's not great. Something is following me, and it's not fun.
As in, it's fun, but it's not. As in, it's good fun, but it's not fun.
I will say, like, if anyone's ever been interested in doing solo RPGs, getting the time to do it, I absolutely recommend it. However, there is quite a few times you go, oh, it's gone to some very dark places I didn't mean for it to go. I've enjoyed it, but will anyone else enjoy it, or will I make them sad? And I think the answer is I'm gonna make them sad. So, but it's I think those solo RPGs, if you're a DM or you're getting into writing your own content or anything like that, I think doing solo RPGs is a really cool way of like verbalizing stuff or writing your own stuff, because then you can just get something out and you actually go, oh, I can use this somewhere. I always think that in any content I've ever done is I can use this somewhere else. So I think, like, doing rogues, I'm like, I definitely want to play a rogue at some point. And the idea of doing a full party of rogues, I'm just gone, that is the coolest thing ever. Of course I want to play that now. So so I always recommend solo RPGs on that front. So yes, Long Haul 1983 is what I'm doing just now. And then at some point in January, hopefully again, touch wood with all this obviously variant stuff that's going around, I'm hopefully going to do this in-person VR improv stuff called Galactic Implosions, which is a sci-fi improv show where essentially it's a bit like Galaxy Quest if Galaxy Quest was done by lots of British people, and there's aliens, there's VR stuff, there's a black hole somewhere, and I'm in it currently as just the general chat person. So if you talk to me on YouTube, it's me answering your requests and stuff. But hopefully, not hopefully, if somebody was to be taken sick for whatever reason, I go in as the reserve. I've not done any VR before, so this could be quite fun as that arms get twisted or my head is on backwards, and we just have to justify it as that, yep, that's just what the captain does, or depending what character I'm playing. So yes, hopefully that I can talk. Hopefully, I can post more about that if I'm watching. If not, I'm probably on the show going,
I'm in VR.
I'm in VR. So that's my January, and of course, always to finish off, if you're thinking, God, I have a little bit of money after Christmas, and I don't know what to spend it on. Well, let me tell you, you know what? It's so funny. I'm at home currently whilst we're recording this, and I'm very close to Burnley. Unfortunately, I won't have time to go over and visit Third Space Gaming, which is at my friendly local game store. You can get 10% off at checkout if you use the code DMBC into checkout. Your first order, you've got to do the hand gesture, otherwise it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can use it on any pre-orders.
It's got verbal and somatic components, basically.
It does. Gosh, I should have known. You can obviously pre-order any of the alt covers and stuff from there. They're going to do the Call of Neverdeep, I'm sure, and they've got obviously minis.
That's not fun,
I think it'll be around about when this episode comes out. I think it's mid-Jan. I think so. Mid-Jan. So it looks like we'll have some more stuff on the horizon. But yes, so anything like that, you can obviously have a look at Third Space Gaming, and that's DMBC for your first 10% off your first order. Yeah,
exciting.
I think.
It's March the 15th. It's miles away.
Oh no! Somebody's moved it. I've lied. I'm so sorry. We're not very researched on this podcast.
We did the research just there and then, so it's all right.
We did. It was up to date. You know what I think it is? It's the Exandria Reborn.
Reborn is in January. That's right.
There we go. Yes. I was close. It was a Critical Role related product.
Yes.
Yes.
Tal'Dorei
yes.
Reborn as well. We'll get them.
Okay. Well, folks, I hope you are enjoying
Let's
your
go before we
January.
make any more boobs.
Yes. So, as always, we'll see you next week. I'm sure it will come up on the thing. But until then, see you on the flip side.
See you on the flip side. See ya. Bye.
Love you. Bye.